All right, Frank DiMora again, reporting from the last Chronicles of Planet Earth, July 19th, 2011. Going to continue on now in the book of Revelation, a prophecy in the book of Revelation. This is chapter 13, and it's a warning from Jesus Christ from that book that is a warning about the Antichrist coming and the man who will control this one world empire that is put together by the Antichrist, and the one world system that he will use, the economic system, to bar people from being able to buy anything or selling anything unless they take his identification, which the Bible tells us, as I'm going to read it here in a second. It tells us that it will be placed in his right hand and his forehead. Listen to what Jesus has warned us in Revelation chapter 15 through 17. It says, "And he had the power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many would not worship the image of the beast should be killed." Now, the Antichrist is also going to have a forerunner like Jesus had John the Baptist. The Antichrist is going to have a false prophet who will be able to do miracles, and one of these things that is going to happen is he's going to make this image speak. It's going to be exact image of this Antichrist. And in my Bible, or in my, and in my post and in my book, I give you examples how this can actually be done. It's really interesting. In verse 16, it says, "And he caused all, both small and great, rich or poor, free and bond, to receive the mark in their right hand or in their forehead." So we know where it's going to be put. And also in my book, I show you technology that is being used today that's put in the skin, by the way. Exactly what the warning of Jesus talked about. In verse 17, "And that no man might buy or sell, say he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So we do know that the mark will be placed by the Antichrist. He is going to do this in exactly 3.5 year mark of the 7-year tribulation. Now in the beginning, he's going to look like he's a Superman. He's going to look like a Messiah. He'll look like he can't do anything wrong. It'll look like that he's going to put back the world chaos that is ensued by the falling out of the present economic climate that we have, and we see that where it's going. Now the United States will play a major part in this. They've never been mentioned in the book of Daniel, either chapter 2, chapter 7, or anywhere else in the book of Daniel that outlines who the last world powers are. So we know that the United States isn't going to play a role except for the fact of bringing on this last world empire that Jesus warned about. Now I've been showing you the signs of the decline of America. And here is another one of those warnings from an expert. This is from Newsmax. Let me put this up. Hopefully you'll be able to see it with no problem. Expert, U.S. economic system near collapse. Let me read what it says. "Pessimism over the United States economic outlook ruled as speakers last week took the stage at an annual Freedom Fest in Las Vegas," reports humanevents.com. With the August 2nd deadline looming for a decision on the federal budget ceiling, speakers painted a grim picture of things to come. "I think that all the talk about the deficit is really an admission that the United States is running a gigantic Ponzi scheme," said Peter Shernoff, CEO of Connecticut-based brokerage Euro Pacific Capital. "Decreasing global demand for the U.S. dollar will eventually trigger an inflationary crisis," said Shernoff. "When interest rates go up in the United States, there is no way the U.S. government can pay the interest, let alone the principal on its debt," he said. That's exactly what I've been warning about. And if you've come to my post, you see that I've been telling you to watch this. Now, I'm not an expert, but this is what the expert is, not only this expert, but many of the experts are saying. It says the country's entire financial system was described by another speaker as being close to collapse as the nation continues to spend more than it produces. And if you read the news today, you will see that Barack Obama is trying to again raise the debt limit. Now, if they don't do this, the United States will default, and you will see major problems because of that. And again, all these events are leading to bring us to Revelation chapter 13, in fulfillment of the Antichrist. Because when the present system collapses, a new one will be born, and this is the one that Jesus Christ was warning about. Now, in Daniel, under the visions by God, Daniel was able to see every world dominating power from the time that Daniel was alive all the way until the second coming of Christ. And God showed Daniel that in the last days, the revived Roman Empire would come again. Now, one of the things that I've been looking at, and I've been warning, and it's in my book and in my posts, and even in my live presentations, that there are two sections of the old Roman Empire, the eastern section, which are the Islamic nations, and then there's the western side, which is, as we know, the European Union, and all those nations make up the old Roman Empire. Now, both of those sections, both the east and the western sides, are already here, and we're watching both sides. We know that the Antichrist is going to emerge from the revived Roman Empire, so it's very important to watch what happens on both of those legs. But here's a very interesting article that I pulled up today, and that you won't have any problem seeing this: the Eurozone crisis. If the single currency can be saved, deeper political union is inevitable. Now, you'll understand why I am going to give you this. This is a, well, I'm going to play this. I recorded it earlier just for the sake of my throat. You'll be able to hear it with no problem.
A disorderly collapse of the Union would very probably mean the end of the European Union. For the 6 founding members of the European Economic Communities, that would mean the end of the central political economic governance structure under which they have say since mid-1950s, now getting on for 60 years. There are relatively few countries in Europe that existed before 1830. A political economic governance structure that has lasted 60 years is long established legally since the Lisbon Treaty. The European Union is already a state and for practical purposes has been a state for much longer. What else should one call a defined geographical area that sets laws, raises taxes, can make treaties, have a currency, a parliament, a civil service, an executive, a Supreme Court, Bill of Rights, common external tariffs, a common trade policy, a common legal space, common competition laws, a common immigration zone? Much press commentary within the UK seems to regard the idea that the members of the Eurozone might agree to even deeper political union, even deeper economic ties, e.g. larger transfers, much deeper encroachments of the powers of the national parliament, e.g. budget pre-approval, to be fanciful whilst at the same time writing about the total collapse of the euro. Or, which is the same thing, is it's breaking up into a Germanic and Latin zone as if it were a straightforward, perhaps even inevitable outcome. But organizing concept of the European Union has, since the outset, been ever closer union. Solving the Eurozone crisis by deepening those ties further is a natural extension of what already exists. Solving the Eurozone crisis by ending the European Union and so moving away from the form of political economic governance the core Eurozone countries have become used to for the 60 years is, in core EU member state terms, what is truly unthinkable. If it comes down to this, some form of even deeper political union amongst the core 6 members of the EU, plus some hangers-on, or the end of the European Union, or any similar scenario in which the political organization of the 6 core members becomes separated. If saving the euro actually seems feasible by some form of even deeper political union, which is by no means obvious, I believe we can be confident that it will be deeper political union, not Eurozone collapse, that will be truly inevitable.
All right. So I know that that was long, but the reason why I wanted to give this to you is in this last paragraph, when it says it becomes down to this, some form of even deeper political union amongst the core 6 members of the EU, plus some hangers-on. What they're talking about, if the the union collapses, they think that the 6 original will hold together, and there may be some hangers-on. And when we look in the scriptures, we see in the book of, we're going to go back into the book of Daniel. In the book of Daniel, we see this, God showed Daniel about this revived Roman Empire. And he likens in chapter 2 of 10 toes of this kingdom that will rise. And we know that Jesus talks about this in the Revelation chapter 17, because he mentions about the 10 horns. And these 10 horns and these 10 toes from Daniel chapter 2 are, we know that there will be 10 kings who will give all their power over to the Antichrist during the last days. And it says, and whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of pottery's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. Now, if the European Union, we know that it is already a revived Roman Empire, at least the western side. If they collapse, right now I believe there's 27 nations, but if the Eurozone goes down because of their budget problems, and 6 of them hold together, the original 6, and then you have these other stragglers combined, you need to watch to see if 10 of them stay together. Now, if they do, then we have these 10 toes. It could be the 10 toes that Jesus talks about in Revelation, and also that God shows us here in the 2nd chapter of the book of Daniel. And we know that they're not going to cleave together. And we see when we're watching the European Union, that's exactly what's happening. You have a weak Greece, which has fallen apart. They've already gone now into 2 bailouts, and they're still in problems. You have Spain is having problems, Portugal, in Italy. So the structure, the economic structure, at least within the European Union, has fallen apart. So in verse 42 it says, and as the toes and the feet were part iron and part clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. Germany is really strong. Great Britain is really strong. Greece is weak, and there's other nations. So you see the exact same thing that the warning us from this western side. That's why we're really paying attention to it. And whereas thou was iron mixed with murky clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So they're not going to cleave together. So we need to watch what's going to happen with these the Euro nations, because we'll know as time gets closer and closer. We'll know the which side, whether it's the western side or the eastern side, because we'll see what happens in the development of these 10 toes that Christ and God showed in the book of Daniel. So we're in really exciting times. I know that some people are leaning towards the Islamic nations, but you need to watch both of them just in case. It's very exciting.